Anthony's out today. Essig in. Matt, glad to have you here, sir. But Anthony is missing a day that I'm sure he's been wondering about for a long time. The day we discuss the Wizards trading Bradley Beal. It's a day that most people thought would never come, and rightfully so. The Wizards last year locked themselves into a Brad Beal future. At least that's what they thought. And they did it with the intention of having that Brad Beal future, having that future be Beal and Porzingis and Kuzma. And instead, less than a year later, less than a year after, this show is not a year old. And on the first day of this show last year, we had Tommy Shepard, of course, then general manager and team president of the Wizards, on and said, what's the plan? What are we doing? He's like, I really like these three guys. This is our future. And we're going to march forward with it. And less than 1 year later, Shepard's been gone for months, and now Bradley Beal is headed to the Phoenix Suns. Unfortunately, the parting gift is pretty poor. Brad did not do, nor is he obliged to do the Wizards any favors on his way out. He and his agent, Mark Bartelstein, took care of that basically a year ago. And I don't want to do the woe is me, I'm right, everyone else is wrong, listen to me, look how smart I am bit. But I would just say this. If I tell you something definitively on this radio show, it's probably because I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this for a decade, and I come from a reporting background that comes from talking to people. And what became very clear to me over the last couple of months, as this thing went sideways before Tommy got fired, which I think had Shepard stayed, something would have been done similar to this. I think that was part of the potential plan. I do think that a Beal trade was on the table. I don't know certainly that it was as definitive as it would have been when the new folks came in as hey, mission teardown, go at it. I don't know exactly what would have happened, but I don't think they were as married to Beal by the end of the Shepard era as they were just a year prior, which, we can talk about the lack of foresight there. But I certainly got the impression that they realized this season, for whatever reason, this ain't it. This is not working. And that is the fundamental flaw here. And we'll circle back to that fundamental flaw in a moment. But the result being that trading him was not going to get the kind of return that people expected. The idea that they could get a Tyrese Maxey from Philadelphia was never on the table. If Philly made a trade, it was going to be a Tobias Harris and maybe a draft pick, or Tobias Harris and Korkmaz. The fact that the Heat allegedly were offering multiple first-round picks is because they weren't willing to give up Tyler Hero, their most valuable piece. Lowry was good for them, but is ultimately salary filler, a necessary evil, who's 38 years old and costs a lot of money, and Duncan Robinson, who, while he was great in the playoffs, did not play for them very much during the regular season and has a long-term contract. The penalty for giving the Wizards the long-term deal of Robinson is that they had to attach stuff for taking on Beal. But ultimately, the market was even beyond what Beal's value was, which was always, in my opinion, and with the intel I gathered, one draft pick plus one solid young player, Tyler Hero level, not Tyrese Maxey level. Maxey was too good. It was either that or two picks. And instead, with that being the ceiling, with that being the, hey, if they can get a little bidding war started, that's what a team might be willing to part with. Beal, in the end, was like, I want to go to Phoenix. And that's the literal worst place in the league he could have picked for the Wizards. Because there is no one with a cupboard more bare than the Phoenix Suns. Even the Minnesota Timberwolves, ye who traded 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert, had more to offer in return in a theoretical trade than the Phoenix Suns. And so what the Wizards did was 2 years ago make the determination after, or actually it's even longer ago than that now, let's say 4 years ago, when they get rid of John Wall, that proceeding with Bradley Beal was the right play instead of starting over then. That was a mistake then. It's one they compounded when after Russell Westbrook comes, does an excellent job with Beal, but they fail out in the first round, and they determined for whatever reason they needed to trade Westbrook, potentially because Russ didn't want to be here anymore and they wanted to get him back to LA to be nice to him, play nice with his agent, whatever karma, agent favor, basketball, whatever that was. They could have started over then. Said, we will also trade Bradley Beal. He, in a final year of an expiring but affordable contract, new team, you come highest bidder, you get him. If you like him, you can sign him. Go right ahead, be our guest. Everyone step up, make your best offer. They did not. They could have after last season at the trade deadline where Tommy Shepard insisted to me on this radio station that they never explored trading Bradley Beal before he hurt his wrist. They could have after the season traded him in a sign and trade extension type of deal, gotten him his money, not given him the no trade clause, and moved on. Or let the no trade clause be someone else's problem. His value higher after last year. Instead, they let him play as a number one option, as a primary ball handler, having an efficient but non-winning year in which he got hurt yet again. His value continued to drop, and it happened under the worst contract in the league. I know the Ben Simmons contract is really bad, but I think now I'm going back to calling Beal's the worst contract in the league, and it is because they don't have, they, being the team in control, theoretically, control, kind of the operative word here, does not actually have control over it. If the Suns now decide in a year that this trade was a mistake, which, by the way, I think is very possible, Bradley Beal can simply tell them to go screw themselves. I like living in Phoenix. My wife's family's from California. I like being here. You can trade me to California, I'll go. If not, tough. Me, Kev, and Dev are having a great time. There's not a thing the Suns can do. Just like there wasn't a thing the Wizards could do when Brad went to them and ultimately said, I would like to go to Phoenix. As for whose fault that is, it lays at the feet of Ted Leonsis. I hate doing this to Ted because I really like what Ted has done in the year since. AKA he moved on, finally reset the organization. I loved his interview with Woj, some of the things he said to Grant and Danny. And I think Ted now understands the thing you have to do in the NBA, which is relentlessly pursue a superstar player at a level that he didn't have. That simply having a star is not good enough. You need more. And unfortunately, it's a year too late. And unfortunately, it comes a year after he told Tommy Shepard, we got to do whatever it takes to keep Brad and keep him happy. And his agent, Mark Bartelstein, said, we want the no trade clause. And instead of going, no. Steph Curry doesn't have one. Go ahead. If you're going to leave over the no trade clause when we can offer you more money than anyone else, go ahead. Leonsis and Shepard signed on. And so this is the sowing of what they reaped, or the reaping of what they sowed. Yeah, I tried to switch it because I was doing a wordplay thing with the order. That's not how that works. Anyway, these are the consequences of their actions. And unfortunately, it means that a player who could have gotten you a Rudy Gobert-esque 5 first-round pick potential haul just 2 or 3 years ago gets you Chris Paul, who hopefully you can flip for something else. Landry Shamet, who's worn out his welcome in every city he's ever played in. And a bunch of second-round picks. I don't think I need to draw this conclusion, but just in case anyone's lost on this, that's not good asset management. But Winger and Dawkins didn't have a choice. And what they did was make a very, very distinct decision that maximum flexibility moving forward is the right play, and they've pursued that path. What does that mean? What are the next steps? How do I grade this out from the Wizards side of it? What do they do with Chris Paul? That is what we will discuss next. Still to come this hour, why the year too late thing is actually even understated in the last 15 minutes of me talking. Plus, memories of the Bradley Beal era. That all to come. It's the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and always live on the free Odyssey app.
This is the Hoffman Show on the Team 980 and the Odyssey app.